Picture a scenario where you had saved and prepared so well for your retirement or for your life in retirement, and then after you have retired, a few years into your retirement, you find yourself in a scenario where you don't have any finances, you're not able to sustain your lifestyle, you're not able to meet your bills or pay your bills. At that particular instance, we say that your longevity risk will have crystallized. What is longevity risk? Longevity risk primarily refers to the potential of outliving your savings or your retirement benefits during retirement, right? So how can we mitigate longevity risk? How can we ensure that even in retirement, when you're not actively generating any income, you do not run out of money or out of finances? How will you ensure that 10 years later or 20 years later or 30 years later or even 5 years later, depending on when you'll be retiring, once you have retired, you do not run out of finances and you're able to meet your bills as and when they fall due when you're not actively in employment? There are a number of ways that we can mitigate longevity risk, or we can plan ahead so that when we have retired, we don't run out of finances. And I'm going to give you a list of 7 strategies that you can employ to cushion you or to mitigate longevity risk. Make sure you stick around and listen in for all the 7 options, or for all the 7 strategies. Actually, you can employ them all together, because this is quite critical, especially if you want to attain financial freedom. And these are not only strategies or ideas that you can employ after you have retired, but you can start employing them now as you make your journey towards attaining financial freedom. My name is Berlin, and welcome back to this channel. If you haven't subscribed, please press the subscribe button and let's get started. The number 1 on this list is wait out your pension. Luckily, within Kenya, we have the Retirement Benefit Authority, or we have laws that guide us as to when we can access our pension. More often than not, whenever you're changing employments from one employer to another employer, the law allows you to access a portion of your pension. If you are constantly changing jobs, or if you have changed jobs, there could be temptation for you to access a portion of your pension. Remember, the pension money, this is funds that you're supposed to be utilizing. They're supposed to be cushioning you during your retirement. So if you access it during your active days to acquire an asset, to pay off your loan, or to pay for your bills because you probably have lost your job abruptly and you didn't have emergency funds, then ideally what you're doing is you are stealing from yourself. You are stealing from the old Berlin. I am stealing rather from that 60-year-old Berlin. The 40-year-old Berlin now will be stealing from the 70-year-old Berlin. So it is most preferable that do not access your pension. If you must access it, take it out when you're changing the fund manager, the pension fund manager, from one whose performance has been minimal to a fund manager whose performance is better than your current fund manager. You can also take it out if you're going to diversify it to different fund managers. You can also take it out if, and only if, you are confident beyond every reasonable doubt that you'll be able to invest this money and earn more than your fund manager would have earned you. For instance, if your fund manager was earning you maybe 7% or 5%, and you are confident, very, very much confident, that you can invest correctly, professionally, and earn a return on investment, or maybe 20% or 18%, way more than what your fund manager was earning you, I would check that out. Otherwise, let your pension fund remain intact, because then you'll be stealing from your old self. Let's assume that you heeded advice and you didn't take out your pension fund, yeah? And now you have hit the retirement age and you are in retirement. How then can you protect yourself from this longevity risk? You need to work on adjusting your living standards. Whereas when you're still in active employment, you are able to go on holidays, maybe every school holiday or every year. You are able to eat out and drink out with friends. And that was because at the end of each month, you had your pay slip. Now that pay slip is not there anymore. You have your retirement benefits. Probably coming in some amounts being paid out monthly. You'll need to adjust your living standards. Okay? If you don't adjust your living standards, there's a high chance that you'll continue living within the same standards, and then you are likely to deplete your lump sum payment or your pension funds or your investments or your savings within a very short time. Okay? Thus, you are likely to outlive your investments. Adjust your living standards. Third on the list is you need to plan for your healthcare. This is the time where taking a medical cover is quite important. Why? Because as we age, our immunity, I think, gets suppressed, and then we become more prone to diseases. This is the time when high blood pressure, we are prone to get high blood pressure. We are prone to diabetics. We are prone to, God forbid, certain cancers. Our immunity becomes suppressed. I don't know why, but it becomes suppressed, yeah? So it is advisable for you to plan for your health care. Take up insurance cover if possible. Actually, take up an insurance cover. Not even if possible. Take up an insurance cover, right? Now, point number 4, fourth on my list, yeah? You need to diversify your sources of income. If you are in employment, yes, in Kenya, yes, we have pension deductions. I think it's mandatory pension deductions, yeah? Do not only rely on your pension to sustain you in your old age. Start planning for your retirement now. If you haven't started, save, invest in income generating assets. Buy properties, income generating. Buy shares, dividend stock with growth potential. Invest in long-term treasury bonds. Invest in special funds. Money market funds, I find them a bit short-term, but you can use them as a stepping stone to bigger investment. You can use them as a place to accumulate funds, and then use them for bigger projects. All right? So diversify your investments. And as you diversify your investment, this is the next point, yeah? As you diversify your investments, I would like you to focus or to make sure that you have what I call some infinite sources of revenue. An infinite source of revenue is a source of passive income that does not have a horizon. When you invest in treasury bonds, the bonds have a tenor. It will either going to be a 25-year paper, a 30-year paper, a 5-year paper, or a 7-year paper. At the end of this paper, at the end of this tenor, the government or the bond holder, the bond issuer rather, is going to pay you back your money. Okay? So investment in treasury bonds have an horizon. At the end of the maturity, or at the maturity of that investment, you'll be given back your money. At that particular instance, if you're not in the right mindset, maybe because of old age or even sickness or whatever, to make investment decisions, then you might be in trouble. All right? However, if you take up investments where what I call infinite investments, for instance, you publish a book which you put up on Amazon, and you sell and you get royalties for as long as people will be buying that book. Or you come up with a product, and a product that will be used forever and ever and ever. Loan calculators will forever be calculating loans. Budgeting will forever be budgeting, yeah? If you come up with certain products or even games that will be earning you royalties for as long as you are alive, or even post-transitioning over, you'll still be earning. Okay? An infinite asset. I call it an infinite asset, right? Rental income. For as long as the structure is up and standing and you have a tenant, you will always be earning some revenue. Okay? Now, that is separate from investment in treasury bills, which are short-term. I have already demonstrated to you why I don't consider treasury bonds infinite assets. Why? Because they have an horizon timeline. They have an horizon. Now, investment farming, these are things that you might not be able to do at a certain time when you're already in on that wheelchair and you are tired. You know, you don't have the energy anymore to look after, to monitor or to manage your farm guys, your farm managers, you know. So invest in infinite assets. These are assets that will consistently, that will continuously earn you passive income. All right? Another strategy for managing longevity risk is making sure that you use your retirement benefits wisely. What does that mean? Financial advisors recommend that you only draw out 4% of your investments or of your net worth, okay? So that every year you only use 4% of the outstanding balance of your net worth. So what does that mean? That means that you need to make sure that your wealth in retirement is growing such that when you take out this 4% of your net worth, it does not become depleted. The balance, the 96% of that balance, or the remaining or the residual 96% of your net worth needs to be earning you more money so that when you take out 4% again, it does not become depleted. All right? Now, to sum it all up, like I have said, longevity risk is the risk that you could potentially outlive your savings or outlive your investments or outlive your retirement benefits. All right? And it is important for you to take care of that now, to work towards cushioning yourselves from longevity risk. Is it possible to 100% eliminate longevity risk? Well, it might be a little bit unrealistic. We can minimize our exposure to longevity risk. We can work towards making sure that whatever resources we have in retirement is utilized in a manner that it lasts us longer. It can last us for 70 years. I don't know how long we're going to live post-retirement, but if you're to live 70 years after retirement, then we need to make sure that whatever resources we retire with can push you to the longest time possible. All right? And that does not mean that deny yourself. That does not mean that you need to sleep hungry. That does not mean that you need to be walking around in tattered clothes because you don't want to buy clothes. No. The 4% that you take out from your net worth needs to be covering your bills, and your bills includes food, shelter, clothing. All right? My name is Berlin. Thank you for staying around. and let's meet on the next video.